Jeane-Claude Pijanowski, a man most of us called JC, did something unexpected recently. He died. This was unexpected because he was not old, or at least not old enough to be in the category of someone who might just die one day. Neither was he suffering from any life-threatening maladies. He'd been sick with the flu. He missed work at the winery for much of 1 week. Then at the end of that week, on a Friday night, he passed away. Jeane-Claude was the chief wine scientist at Nicholson Ranch, the winery in Sonoma where I work. As you can imagine, everyone is pretty out of it, stunned, confused, maybe a little bit angry, definitely very sad. JC wasn't just someone we worked with. He was one of the good people, one who brought the good energy into a room and left it there. Someone you wanted around, and someone who wanted to be around. He loved his work at the winery, and not just the lab and winemaking work, which he was great at, but he also wanted to try his hand pouring wine for guests, doing tastings. He turned out to be great at that, too. This really surprised no one. JC was just like that, capable of anything, really. When I found out JC had passed, I really couldn't wrap my brain around it. I still can't. It seems like our conversations about day-to-day things like mousetraps and dog treats would continue forever. And now they won't. JC was a fan of the podcast from the early days. He was curious about it, always very complimentary. And one day I put him in the guest's chair. And as expected, he was a great guest, relaxed, prepared, and he made it a whole lot of fun. Here's part of that conversation. We talked about this around here, and every once in a while somebody says, oh yeah, JC used to work for NASA.
I worked there twice, actually. One as an intern during the Voyager 2 encounter with Uranus.
Which year was that?
That was 79.
And then the second time?
Actually, it was a full-time position working with a subcontractor, working for NASA. And we were in charge of basically telemetry and data storage.
What year was that?
That was like 82 to 85.
Good experience working
Excellent
for NASA?
Experience. I loved it. Seriously, some amazing people. My last gig there was actually working for the spacecraft assembly team.
Okay.
So we were building an interplanetary spacecraft called Galileo.
Oh, yeah.
And I was on the test team. Actually, I was the test conductor's assistant, which was really kind of a cool gig because I was right next to the head honcho, the chief engineer for building interplanetary spacecrafts.
Wow.
So, and my job was just to track all the commands, all the procedures, and just make sure everything was like, we're on schedule, we're issuing the right commands, there's no mistakes. So it was definitely a very cool gig.
And this is a 2019 rosé. What do you think of it?
Well, I like the color. Really beautiful color for sure.
Very dark pink.
In the aromatics, there's definitely fruit. There's no flaws. What I look for normally with wines is flaws.
Sure.
Because it becomes very subjective. And so far, so good.
What do you think of the coasters, JC?
Actually, I like the illustration. It's definitely a little bit of an art piece there.
Yeah, I can't take credit for the illustration.
No, it's really quite nice. I like it.
Some guy made a cartoon image of a picture of me.
And I can tell you're really into the wine. You're closing your eyes. You're going for the aromatics.
I like to close my eyes when I'm smelling the wine because I think it helps me to focus.
I agree. No distractions, for sure.
So, JC, what got you into science as a kid? I know all kids go through a phase where they're into dinosaurs.
Well, I think it was my father because he worked for NASA.
Jean-Pierre.
At Jet Propulsion Laboratories in Pasadena. So we were always a spacefaring kind of family. We were always into space exploration, especially.
So when you were young, your father, Jean-Pierre, was working for NASA?
Actually, he was. He worked on a variety of projects. One of the ones that he really enjoyed was the Viking project.
Okay.
It was the first lander on the planet Mars. And it was 2 of those, and they were very successful.
So that inspired you?
Oh, absolutely.
And you didn't study science? You were in a STEM student.
But my friends were all physicists, physics majors, chemistry majors. So my little like circle of friends were all science majors.
Okay.
It was kind of interesting.
Then how did you get to NASA from there?
Well, I had a summer internship when I was a junior in college.
Okay.
And I really enjoyed it, and I did well, on this. It was called the MTIS team. It was recording telemetry and images from the Voyager 2 spacecraft. And what was cool about it, that experience that summer, is that I met Carl Sagan. He came to my department to film his Cosmos series.
Cosmos, PBS.
PBS. So he came by, we talked and we all saw him. And a funny little story, I went to go get his autograph. So I went around the corner to see where he was, and he was with his girlfriend, and they were like making out big time. So,
you saw Carl Sagan making.
So he was like, for me, he's like the rock star of scientists.
Right. He was a rock star getting the chicks.
And he was like on Tonight Show. I mean, he was really
he was always talking about billions and billions of years.
He was like the poster child for science, for rocketry, for astrophysicists.
I remember that very well when he was like huge.
I left working for NASA, and then I ended up working on Santa Catalina Island. And that was a real change. I worked for the Boy Scouts of America.
The coast of Los Angeles.
Yes, I worked for the Boy Scouts of America as a Boy Scout Ranger. That was a really wonderful gig. Definitely enjoyed that very much. It was like 4 or 5 years I did that. Nice little house on the beach. It was really wonderful. But that's where I met my wife, Anjali. We met at the camp. She was working at the camp in the fall and the spring for another company called Catalina Island Marine Institute.
Okay.
We met there. We fell in love.
She also a scientist?
She is a scientist in the sense that she teaches science.
Okay. If you're not using the science, the chances of having a flawed wine or not having the best wine you can possibly make is going to be out there, right?
Well, you have to use what's available to you. And we, fortunately, how science has evolved, we have instruments that can help us. Though in the end, we definitely taste what we've got.
Right.
I mean, that's going to make the decision is actually the aromatics, the color, the taste. And, at Deepak and I, it's like, we'll look at the numbers very carefully. And they kind of give us a guide. Mm-hmm. But in the end, it's going to be sort of like how the experience is.
It's your palate.
Absolutely.
You're tasting, you're smelling, and the decisions are made, I'm guessing, with a combination.
It's a combination of both.
Data
absolutely.
And the soft science, which is the tasting and the smelling.
They tested wine already in space.
You told me about that.
Yeah, it was actually a couple of years ago, in 2019. They sent up a case of a Bordeaux wine. And what was the wine called? I'm trying to have a moment.
One of those really expensive.
Oh, it was a Petrus 2000. Oh. And it goes for about $6,000 to $8,000 a bottle.
Sure.
So they sent a case up.
Wow.
It was up there for a year and a half. They brought it back down, and they did a blind taste of the space wine next to the same wine that was aged on the ground. And there was a consensus that, first of all, the quality was still there. Great quality. Everything was spot on. But they believed the wine aged 3 years longer in space.
Really? If they ask you to come to space? If they shoot you in a rocket ship?
I think I would go with Jeff Bezos. I like his Blue Origin rocket.
I don't know that I'm ready to go to space.
Well, one way or another, we're going to space. That's a fact.
Well, we're going to have to get the hell off this planet eventually. That's for sure.
Yeah, we are the talking monkeys, and we're going to have to leave the womb and move on.
Let's taste the second wine. This is a Carmenere. Carmenere is the name of the grape. What do you think?
Well, visually, I love the color again. Beautiful, beautiful color. The aromatics, very clean. Now I'm going to taste it.
Oh, man. It's really good.
Oh, nice texture.
It has a lot of really nice non-fruit flavors going on.
And it's got a really long finish.
I get this big hit of tobacco.
Okay.
Right? Almost like I'm drinking tobacco juice. Nice.
Tobacco juice.
Not like somebody spit chewing tobacco into a spittoon and I'm drinking that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm like, if you put tobacco leaves in a juicer, maybe that's what I'm saying. But I'm not 100% sure. Again, tasting wine and blurting out the first thing you think you taste is is kind of the art.
Though, yeah, the fruit is a little bit more subdued, but
Yeah.
I would have to agree that there is something else going on.
It's not a fruity wine.
No, but I do like the flavors.
What kind of dog is Harley?
She is mostly Pyrenees,
Okay.
a little bit of pit bull.
Yeah.
I think there's some lab in her also. Though I took her to the dog park yesterday, and this woman said, "Your dog has some Great Dane in her." So I think she has maybe some Great Dane, like a small percentage.
Well, she definitely has that build like a Great Dane.
She's long and
big
lanky.
and lean. Yeah, exactly.
Lean, lanky, but a real love bug.
If you could sit down and have a glass of wine or a Moscow Mule with someone from the world of science, living or dead, who might it be?
One that's dead would be Carl Sagan.
Okay.
I do want to get my autograph that I never got.
He was too busy making out with some hot chick.
That's right.
Was at NASA or was that at college?
Oh, that was at NASA.
That was at NASA.
That was at JPL.
He's visiting NASA.
He was even visiting
He brought his
our
girlfriend with him.
He brought his girlfriend, and his little entourage with people. And
I have to go into the next room to
that's what he
study
did.
something.
And let me make out. And they were making out. It was like, okay.
Oh, man. Carl Sagan.
Yeah.
How much did they get right in Star Trek?
You mean the original Star Trek
Yeah,
series?
the original with,
Oh, they had the tricorder.
William Shatner.
Well, they had the tricorder. They had, we don't have teleportation, which would be really cool. That would be a nice one to crack, is to have a method to teleport matter through space.
You think that's going to happen? Is somebody working on that?
I would not be surprised. There's all kinds of secret projects through DARPA from the military.
Yeah.
They do all kinds of really interesting research. So that may be one that they're exploring. I mean, it would be cheaper than having a rocket.
Right. Right.
So.
But you have to build the teleportation station wherever you're going to teleport people to, right?
Unless you send it first and then, you wait an hour and then you're ready to go.
I'm having a hard time wrapping my brain around it.
I know. Teleportation would be a really funky experience.
And then time travel.
Going back in time or going in the future? That would be interesting.
Going in the future and meeting yourself.
That would be very an odd experience for sure.
Jeane-Claude Pijanowski is no longer with us. Maybe he figured out teleportation and he just beamed himself away. But I know he's out there somewhere, maybe sipping wine with Carl Sagan, talking about the cosmos. If you'd like to hear that whole conversation, you can find it from July of 2021. It's called JC Brings the Science. Will you join me now in raising a glass to him? Be well, JC. Thanks for the good times. And Godspeed, my friend. Cheers.